Hi there, it's Lou from Lou's Aquarium. I know what you're thinking. What happened? I met a cannibal. It was 2004. I was travelling in India with the missus, and we'd been all over Himachal Pradesh and Himalayas, and we were tired. We were all in, so we decided to go for a big chill. So we hopped on a plane, landed in Goa, um, where we had a few parties and decided to chill, and that's what we did. A bit of research, and we found this beach bar on Osram Beach, Little Vagata, if you like, beach, and it was amazing. It was just full of hippies, travellers, nice people, and just interesting people. And one day, I go to the toilet in the bar. It's run by the bar was run by a guy called Vasu, who's a good mate of mine now. Anyway, one day, I go to the toilet, and on the way out of the toilet, I noticed that there's a holy man lying in the sun, like asleep in the sun. But his robes were different. His robes were black, and normally a holy man's robe, like what a Hare Krishna would wear, are normally orange. His were black. Anyway, didn't make too much of it. Went to the toilet, and on the way back from the toilet, this guy sits bolt upright, looks me in the eye, and says, "Hey man, what you doing?" So I just went, "I'm just chilling, mate. You know what I mean? How about you?" And he goes, "Man, I'm a millionaire. Gonna buy myself one of those iPod thingies." So I was like, "Man, you know what I mean? Great. Good for you, dude. Nice to meet you." Anyway, go inside, tell the missus I've just met a millionaire. My missus laughs at me and says, "You know what, dude? Everyone's a millionaire in Goa. Take it with a pinch of salt." So I was like, "Cool, okay." So then over the next 3 weeks, this guy is in and out of the bar. We get to know him a little bit. He told me that his name is Gary Stevenson. He told me that he is the great grandson of Robert Louis Stevenson, the great American author, and that he's waiting to get money, his inheritance through, and all this sort of stuff. He showed me his driving license from America. Um, Said that was the old him, the picture on it. I was like, right, cool. And all this stuff. Told me his Hindu name is Kapil Nath. But I didn't really believe any of it. I didn't believe any of it actually. Didn't that was that. Anyway, I asked him, "Do you ever go back to America?" Because he was American. I actually thought he was Indian. He was that suntanned that I thought he was Indian when I first saw him. And then obviously when he spoke to me, it turned out he was American, just an American white guy with a tan. And I said, "Do you ever go back to America?" He said, "Oh, no way, man." He said, "If I go through customs, they'd just Google me, man." So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to leave that there." And I need to tell you at this point that in Goa, it is a bit edgy. There's a lot of Russian gangsters. There's a lot of crazy people and people trying to get away from things. So I've been led down the rabbit hole before with people like saying stuff and me asking questions and wishing I never had. And this was one of those times where the bells went ding. Don't ask the question. I didn't want to know what happened when you Google him. Not in front of him anyway. So that was that. We go home, and I'm researching the holiday again and trying to find people on Facebook and all this stuff. And basically, Google Gary Stevenson, Kapil Nath, and boom, what comes up, is that Gary Stevenson is no holy man. Gary Stevenson is actually a bona fide murderer and cannibal. What? Are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. It was all over the internet. He was wanted for shooting a man in the face in San Francisco, and he was wanted for the disappearance of 2 hikers in Hawaii. I was like, what? And also, he's a cannibal. Couldn't believe it. What? There was this loads of about 3 or 4 articles online about him. Couldn't believe it. Obviously, that's the story, isn't it? So you go around telling people. I told a few people about the story, my friends and stuff. 6 months later, my mate Dave, who's a photographer, calls me round to his house, and I think he'd either been working for this magazine or something, but he'd had a subscription to this magazine, Vice magazine, quite popular now. And on the cover of Vice magazine that month or that week or whatever, was Capel Nath. Can you believe that? The guy that I met is now on the front of the cover of a magazine that I'm reading in a flat in Chorlton. It was just like, what? Are you serious? But great, I had some evidence, man. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, so I went and showed like this guy at work. I said, "There's that dude that I told you about," and he just went, "You know what? That's bullshit, dude. Like, and no way did you meet him, man." I was like, wounded. You know what I mean? Like, what? Are you serious? You know, literally like gloves down, pint pot upside down, all that jazz, you know. And I just like, what am I gonna? You know what? When someone challenges like that, someone like gives you a dig, you've got to answer back, man. And that's what I got in my mind. And I thought, I'm going back to India, man, to find Kapil Nath. So that's what we did. We landed in Goa. And we go back to the beach bar. This is like a year after. A year, it might have even been 2 years after, because we had to save the money, you know, not rolling in dough. So, go to the beach bar, meet Vasu, and his right hand man, Rocky. And we asked Rocky, like the bar manager, where's Gary Stevenson? He says, I don't know what you mean, man. So I'm like, you know, the guy, like, they called him Gary Baba. So I said, Gary Baba. Baba is a holy man, and his name is Gary, so they called him Gary Baba. It makes sense, obviously. And he said, "Don't know what you mean, man. I don't know what you mean." And this guy was distinctive. There's no question about it. There wasn't another guy like him. And it was unusual, I found, that Rocky didn't know who he was. And I had to be careful here because, like I say, you don't ask too many questions. And I've got that this dude is flat out denying that he knows someone when he knows and I know that he knows him. And he knows that I know that he knows him, but he's denying it. I was just like, this is unusual. But I'd come to India, you know what I mean, to find him, just to hit a brick wall on day one. I don't think so, you know what I mean? I literally pleaded with the dude and told him what had gone on. About like someone had dissed me really, and he said, right, he says, you know what, you're talking about the man who eats the man. And I said, yeah, I am, man. So he says, you should stay away from him. He says, you're a good man, Lou. He is a bad man, you know what I mean, and you should stay away from him. So I said, I understand what you're saying, Rocky, do you know what I mean, but I just need 10 minutes with this dude. I need to get a couple of pictures with him, and I'm done. Do you know what I mean? That is it. I'm going back home to Manchester. He said, I'll tell you where he is, man, but it's not easy to get to. So I said, tell me. He says, and he told me basically that he was staying in a guest house on an estuary between the Goa Maharashtra border, and the Goa Maharashtra border is like another planet. It is dry, arid, nothing for miles, land, and it's a long way away, which means you're going to have to go through some wilderness at some point because India is a wilderness. Um, so that was it. He said you can't go on a scooter; it's too far, and no one's going to take you. So I said, right, okay. So we got some supplies, threw my backpack on, and we left on a scooter. Crazy shit. So we're flying down the road on a scooter, and it's all civilization is long gone behind us, and the jungle is on you, man. I tell you what, it was literally we were driving through tunnels of vegetation, like this on a scooter, like, and my missus is freaking out, and this, that, and the other, and like just keep going, we'll make it, we're worth it, and it took us about 3.5 hours on a scooter, and if you've ever spent half an hour on a scooter, you need spinal surgery after it, especially in India. And all of a sudden, the land clears. It starts getting really dry, like I was expecting, and arid, and there's glistering in like the distance. And I thought, it turns out that was the sea. So we're coming up to an estuary. There was a few shops, maybe one every mile or something, like tea shops that you probably wouldn't have had tea from. And finally, we go past this guest house. Like we'll go and check it out, man. It was like one light on. There was a kid, like there is often in India, just like at guard outside. This kid was sat on a Coke machine, swinging his legs. I tell you what, man, it looked like something out of Deliverance. To be honest, I was a bit like every now and again I get into situations and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But anyway, we pressed on. So we asked this kid, Gary Baba, and he just went like that. And I was just like, jackpot. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't believe it. So we walked round and we walk up on this old man in a rocking chair. It's quite smartly dressed, and sure enough, it's Capelnath. It's Gary Stevenson. He didn't remember me. Didn't remember my wife. Didn't remember anything that I'd told him when we'd met him. He was clearly an alcoholic. His mind hadn't. It was all over the place. But he was dressed very smart. He obviously had a bit of money all of a sudden, and I genuinely think that he might have been telling the truth when he said he was the great grandson of Robert Louis Stevenson, because I do believe he'd come into a bit of money, because he didn't have that when I met him the first time. It was only the second time I met him he had money, and he did have a bit of money as well. He had like a laptop and he had an iPod as well. Anyway, we practically interview him, and he says, "Do you want to meet my family?" So I'm like, "What?" Yeah, you know. So he goes in his little room, pulls out this postal sack, which is full of bones, very ornately carved femurs, skulls, the top of people's skulls, the cap. He drank this pure alcohol out of it. I got loads of photos with him, and just, you know, proved once and for all that I did meet him. And that was the day that I met Capelnath the second time. That's the story, really. We went on our merry way, and I've never seen him since. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know. I doubt it, if I'm honest. The way he was living, he was drinking a couple of gallon of spirits a day. So I'm probably not alive, if I'm honest. I don't think he's alive. The odds are against him. And as a caveat to this story, I was in the same bar only a few years ago, and I've met this guy called Leela and a girl called Tom. Strangely enough, she was from Israel, he was from Nepal, and I told this story to him, what happened, and he said, "Holy shit, dude!" He said, "I met that guy in Varanasi about 8 years ago." And basically, what had happened is he had been pulling people off the funeral pyres, and eating them. So they set fire to the body. The thing would go up, and later they'd come and get the ashes. But in the meantime, he'd come in and started chomping on the leftovers, the remains, and the owner of the ashram where he was staying and where this Leela guy was staying grew suspicious and looked in his belongings and found all these bones, and phoned the police, and apparently he did time for that in an Indian prison. That's no fun, I bet. And that's the last I heard of him. He's the only person that I know has met him as well, this Leela guy. I don't know where he lives in Nepal, but it was just strange to see someone else that he'd actually met, which was a bit crazy. Anyway, that's the end of that. That's the story of Capelnath and how I met the cannibal. Maybe I'll do another video like this, I'm not sure, but I've got plenty more stories to tell you that. So anyway, I'm going to go, and a shout out to Heather and Lars. See what I did there, guys. Rebecca and her fella. Who else? Just everyone who knows me. And peace out, guys. Keep it real and just be nice to each other, man. Like Bill and Ted said, be excellent to each other. Alright, see you later. And the tank looking great, isn't it? A bit of algae here and there, but that's just normal, isn't it? So, looking lovely. Right, see you later, guys. Bye.